What's up, guys?
Hello.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Second Take podcast. My name is Casey Berger, joined by my co-host.
Alex, nice to see everyone. Thanks for coming back.
And today we have two guests, one returning and one new. If you guys like to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Diego.
I'm Ryan. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you guys. So today we're going to touch on some World Series preview based on the insane game that we had last night. And then we're going to dive into our normal categories of NFL and NBA. And I know I say it at the start every time, but you can find anything GWU Sports Business Association related on our Instagram, which is GWU SBA, as well as our website where we have all upcoming events and any sort of, podcast or blog related material that you might want to read or get involved with, as we always welcome guests. So if you have any interest, fill out the form and we'd love to have you on. I think with that being said, we can get going, guys.
Yeah, so let's get started talking about what will go down in history as, I believe, the second longest World Series game ever. Yeah. And, I mean, this was a slugfest between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers, a slugfest at least during the first 9 regulation innings as they stretched an overtime game into the 18th inning, which tied an inning record, fell short of the runtime record of a Dodgers game played in 2018 against the Red Sox, I believe. But this game ended with a classic, you knew it was coming, Freddie Freeman walk-off home run. And for those of you who stayed up for some of the game, for those of you like me who started watching in overtime and then just said not gonna go to bed until this is over and ended up staying up till 3 a.m. In the moment, this was a tough watch. Lots of ground outs, lots of pops out, a lot of, especially when Shohei Ohtani came up to bat. He had 5 plate appearances in overtime, I believe. All 5 were walks, yep. 4 of which intentional. And this was a game that just lasted forever. But these are games that I think the Dodgers are just built to win just by this roster construction. They're just so strong, from top to bottom. And they were even they were warming up Yamamoto to come in. So
I couldn't believe it.
If the Blue Jays had another starter, this could have gone into the 20 innings, which would have been, at that point, I kind of wanted it to just go as long as possible, just to kind of set some records.
Wait, and what is the record for the longest game?
It was for the World Series. It was 2018 Red Sox versus Dodgers as well.
Yeah, 18 innings, but this 2018 game seems like it went like 7.5 hours. This one clocked in, and I think about 6.5.
I want to say that Red Sox-Dodgers game in 2018 also ended in a walk-off home run. I believe Max
it did.
Muncy.
It was,
yes.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the Dodgers seem to have good luck with these kind of things, and now that they're kind of got a leg up, they're up 2-1, 2 more games at home. Where do you guys kind of see the series going? Because at least for me personally, I don't think the Blue Jays are out of it by any means. I think they got hurt by Springer coming out in, I believe it was the 7th inning, and then they took out Alejandro Kirk, they took out Barger, and those are 2 big bats that they need in that lineup. Bo Bichette, they were missing all those guys for essentially half the game, considering it was 2 games in 1, considering it was 18 innings, and I don't think they're completely out of this yet. Shohei takes the bump tonight. What do you guys see going forward here?
Yeah, I just I didn't come into this series with a lot of hope for the Blue Jays. Like I agree with you. I don't think this series is over. At the end of the day, it is 2-1. But this is just such a demoralizing loss to go 18 innings, to get chance after chance after chance if you're the Blue Jays to kind of get a leg up on the Dodgers and to stave off this Dodgers offense for 9 innings.
Yeah.
Especially without a ghost runner, you don't have to worry about that. To accomplish that and not come away with a single run, like usually with these overtime games, it's just a stalemate for innings. You don't really see one team score a run in the top and then the home team ties it. It just feels like this was a game where both teams put their all into it, and I feel like the team that comes out on top just gains a severe advantage, not to mention that these are the Dodgers we're talking about. So I don't think this series is over per se, but I haven't had much hope in the Blue Jays to upset this, and that kind of minimal hope I had is even more diminished now.
Wait, so you wanted the Blue Jays to win?
I would love for the Blue Jays to win.
I think everyone kind of does.
I think it's America's pick right now, even though they are a Canadian franchise.
Wait, so why don't we want the Dodgers to win?
Well, I think one thing that really bothers people is the fact that they kind of just bought their way to the top, right? I mean, they got Shohei for over $600 million, and like the way people put it is like this, right? You walk Shohei Ohtani, here comes 7-time All-Star MVP, 2-time World Series MVP Mookie Betts. Oh yeah, no, we'll pitch to him, and then after him you have 8-time All-Star MVP, World Series MVP Freddie Freeman. I mean, you just can't really catch a break with that lineup.
Yeah.
After that, you have Will Smith, Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edmond. I mean, it never ends with that lineup, and a lot of those guys are just bought. They have this insane amount of money that they can spend that other teams don't have the luxury of doing, and people don't really appreciate that. People don't like that way of like unethically, getting your way to the top, and that's something that's bought a lot of people.
It's definitely something to be said. I remember seeing a stat during the Brewers-Dodgers series that the Dodgers payroll was something like 4 times the amount that the Brewers were spending in the same season. I mean, at that point, they had been both reaching the exact same point in the NLCS, but it's just insane to see that, a team can have 4 times greater payroll than another team that's been one of the best in MLB all throughout the year. Kind of go back to where we think it's going to go. I definitely agree with you guys. Did not think that this was going to be such a close series. It is 2-1, especially given the Dodgers, starting staff, their bullpen, which as we've seen has basically taken over or taken into some of players that are starting caliber guys. Roki Sasaki can easily make starts on the mound, and you see him coming out of the bullpen pitching lights out innings, especially unfortunately against the Phillies. And one of the things also I was kind of interested to see coming into the series was that it seemed like the Dodgers had not been in a lot of super high scoring games and series. I was just looking at I think it was like 4-1, 3-1 against the Brewers. Phillies series was notably low scoring until the later innings, where on the other side you have the Blue Jays who are coming out, lighting it up early in games, a lot of high scoring games. I just saw one of the Mariners ones like 11-4, like 8-9, so things like that, where it's like it's interesting to see how they've had different stories up to this point, and now we're kind of seeing it unfold.
Yeah. No, totally, and I think there's major implications. Even though to me this feels like one of the least exciting World Series, at least prior to this game happening last night, I think this has major implications on the future of the MLB. And that's why I kind of see the Dodgers winning this World Series as like a necessary evil that needs to happen in order for cap limitations to enter the league, because it's a serious issue that, not only is there's a luxury tax, but there's no cap restriction for teams like the Dodgers to say in 10 years, hey, Shohei, we're going to pay you $680 million, and then, we'll pay you $2 million every year. That allows a really unfair level of roster construction. Yeah. And I know a lot of fans and league organizations are lobbying for a cap floor as well to incentivize these kind of lower market teams to pour money, because the owners are potentially able to, but they understand the odds of MLB teams succeeding and wanting to get a better pick in the draft. But a cap floor and a cap ceiling could be changes we potentially see soon. And the Dodgers, winning 2 championships in a row, let alone God knows how many more are on the way with the way this roster is constructed. I feel like that could be our intro to kind of regulating this league a little bit to be a bit more like the other major sports organizations.
So there's no cap ceiling on baseball?
Nope.
Nothing at all.
No.
There's a luxury tax, which just goes on the owner. And when you have an owner like, as a Mets fan, our owner is Steve Cohen, he gets that luxury tax, he just pays it and he goes about with his day.
What is the luxury tax? Like, how do you qualify to
I don't know the exact number. It's coming out of billionaires' pockets. They're not really too concerned with it either way. It's not enough to really make a dent on, they're probably making more in 30 minutes than whatever that costs. So it's not too much. But anyways, we've kind of covered that. I think we're going to shift over to NBA. So, since we've had this last podcast, the season's underway. Everything is rolling. There's some interesting storylines at the start, and we're only about 4 games in, 3 for some other teams. A lot of things to unpack here. Where do you guys want to start?
We need to talk about Philly and Magic yesterday.
Yeah, that's a great pick. So Ryan here, as well as myself, we're both Philly sports fans. So I'm sure we'll be elated to inform our fellow Lakers and Knicks fans that the Sixers are officially back. Not really, but there's a lot to love about this team. Through 3 games, Maxey is averaging 34 points. He's been everything you've wanted out of a younger second option stepping into that premier scorer role and more. He's just been unbelievable. But Ryan, I'm not sure if you want to touch on Tyrese Maxey or maybe the larger elephant in the room being VJ
Is it Kelly Oubre?
Yes, I can definitely speak to the duo that they've built, and obviously the chemistry that they've shown early on in the season. Off to a 3-0 start, notable wins over the Celtics and Magic, although kind of an asterisk against the Celtics win given the loss of Jason Tatum at the end of last season.
Right.
But still, definitely super promising. Edgecombe putting up a 40 some odd point performance. I think he had greater than 26 last night. So just absolutely loving what I'm seeing from him coming out, shooting the ball well, rebounding, playing kind of that nitty gritty, kind of glue guy role, which has been awesome to see. And I think just the idea or the theme of, shooting the lights out has been something across the league, given the, amount of people that are scoring 40. I think I saw a stat yesterday that was like up until this season, through the first week of NBA play, only like the greatest amount of 40-point performances in the first week of play was 7. And thus far this season, there have been 16 40-point performances.
That's insane.
That's
in the NBA
nuts.
this year. Maxey, notably, one of the 3 players with 2 of those. VJ Edgecombe has 1 of those. And even some of the role players, like Kelly Oubre had 20-plus last night, couple blocks, So I think it's really coming together for us. It's still obviously early, 3 games in. But if you're a Sixers fan, you got to love what you're seeing on the court and the uplook of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of, just double back in on VJ Edgecombe, yes, there are times where he's really shown that he's a rookie. He's still kind of getting acclimated to the league. But when you watch VJ Edgecombe basketball, you just can't help but be like blown away at how mature the guy is as a player.
100%.
As a shooter, he's, that was kind of his major criticism coming out of the draft, other than his size, which is that he wasn't a great shooter. He's been shooting the lights out. He's been fantastic on that end. The defense has been everything you've wanted. But really, it's the passing as well. It's the basketball intelligence. Like he leverages the attention that he draws, driving to the rack to just pass it out to his teammates. And just as like an initiator, a scorer, as a defender, he's like, I cannot believe how good this guy is. 3 days into the season, I've been like trying to get my hands on like a retro black VJ Edgecombe jersey. I don't know if they exist yet, but after that first game, I was hitting up like any connections I have, just trying to figure out how I could get my hands on this jersey, because I'm ready to like push all my chips in on VJ Edgecombe being like a future piece of this team. And there are some implications with Joel Embiid's like questionable health. How can this team kind of operate with him? But we've seen them use Embiid as like this offensive hub, like distributor role, not really running the offense anymore, but just kind of distributing the handoffs to Maxey and Edgecombe and getting his own shot when he needs. If they can keep him healthy by using him in that limited role, like this team is really scary.
It looks great. I mean, VJ's averaging 25, 6, and 6 as a rookie 3 games into his season. And I think kind of what you're saying about that Embiid taking not a backseat, but that more distribution role. We finally have guys around him that he doesn't have to be that guy where it's like, all right, we need a bucket every single time down the court, like into Embiid, like you got to work something out. Having Maxey, having Edgecombe, Quentin Grimes, Kelly, guys that can score, on the perimeter and also inside, really kind of takes the load off them. And I think that's going to be super important, especially as we get later into the season with that load management, like you mentioned, dealing with the injuries and, trying to keep him healthy throughout the year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think another team that surprised me, I'm on the other 3-0 team in the Eastern Conference. We have the Chicago Bulls. At 3-0. They've beaten Detroit, Orlando, and Atlanta. And while I guess none of those are statement wins, those are some quality teams right there. Yeah. And they don't have a single player averaging more than 20 points on the dot exactly. Nikola Vucevic is averaging 20 on the dot. However, it's spread evenly, and almost all of their top 7 scorers who are in double digits are all shooting the ball over 50% outside of 2 of them. And that is something that has really caught my eye. So I haven't had the chance to watch any Bulls basketball, but, I mean, it's a pretty well-constructed roster when you really take a look at it up and down. And do I think they'll make any noise? I'm not sure, but could they be a surprise playoff team based on how they've started? I would not be surprised.
Play-in catalyst, possibly. Yeah, no.
Yeah, maybe they'll escape the play-in for once.
Definitely keep an eye out for Mataz Buzelis. He's a baller. He was like the 10th pick or something. He's been playing pretty well. I forgot where he went, but
he came from the G League.
Lonzo's on sorry.
Mataz Buzelis, he got drafted last year. He came from the G League Ignite, I believe. One of those G League teams, but he's come out pretty well. He's not averaging a crazy amount right now. I think he's putting up, 13, 5, and 1 assist, but he's giving you that spark plug you need. He's shooting 45% from the field, so he's not knocking your socks off, but I mean, they finally have an athletic wing with the departure of DeMar DeRozan that can actually fill a hole in their team that I think they really needed.
Yeah. No, the Bulls just have a lot of like really young, promising players, like guys that are really under the radar, like Trey Jones, who I'm like looking at the stat sheet. I know it's only 3 games in. He's averaging 3 1/3 steals per game. Like you just have a kind of Trey Jones is kind of your distributor, smaller guard role, and he's kind of stepped up in that distributor role. Guys like Kevin Huerter that have just been like kind of haven't really found a stable role anywhere since his time in Sacramento. And then I think the big one right now in the absence of Kobe White is Josh Giddey stepping up to 19 points per game. I mean, I have my reservations about him both as a person and a player, but he's really stepping up. I know the video of him shooting like an off the dribble 3 and just like airballing it like behind the backboard is circulating right now. But when you look at the stat sheet, you see that this guy is really contributing. I mean, he's averaging 19, 8, and 6. Like he's kind of contributing all over the floor. And I think that's one of the big reasons, aside from Buzelis kind of continuing to break out, is why this Bulls team is 3-0.
Yeah, and I would like to address a pretty significant elephant in the room that I've seen from this season. I'm going to list a stat line. I want you guys to guess who it is. It shouldn't be that hard. So he's averaging, 33 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 blocks.
Victor
Wembanyama. Is the league going to be okay here? Because he's taking a bigger leap than I expected. I expect him to be really good and possibly an MVP conversation. I didn't think he'd be the front runner at this point. I mean,
we saw what he was doing in like the offseason. He went to China. He was doing all the meditating stuff. He's coming back serious. He was training with like it was Hakeem, right?
Yep.
No, like you could tell he's very serious about.
Absolutely locked in. I mean, I remember the clip. I think it was from 2 nights ago that he just kind of guarded up and then just like a couple between the legs and just like a step back 3.
Yeah.
And it's like you are 7 foot.
And that was after
5.
a block. Like,
exactly. So it's like
he's everywhere. And
what can he not do? Especially if it's like who can even compete in the DPOY conversation going forward? Like
no one.
What are we potentially seeing 4, 5, 6 years in a row of maybe DPOY? I mean, I was watching a video the other day and it was like his like adjusted like defensive contributions was like the highest. Like his last 2 seasons have been the highest ever in like the top, whatever the top leaderboards are.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
like, wow, that's just insane in your first couple seasons in the NBA.
The blocks that he gets, like the steals, the defensive, attention that he just brings where, maybe they're swinging out and taking, lower percentage shots. Like I imagine adjusted stat like that kind of takes all that into mind, which makes sense why it's so high. I mean, that the guy is like an alien. It's truly like mind blowing watching. He looks like, I used to play 2K on PC and it's all hackers and they all have like 10-foot arms.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like watching that in real life. And it's so surreal to see a guy like this, like, taking logo 3s. And, last night it was a 360 layup. Every day you're going to see something crazy with Wembanyama. And in regards to what you said, Ryan, what can he do? He can do everything. And that brings us to the worry. Can he stay healthy? Because, I mean, last year, a blood clot is a serious injury. And I know, like, in all the articles about what he did this offseason, it was kind of working to, like, deal with a lot of the trauma he had from that injury because of how, like, truly serious it is to have, like, a blood clot type injury that early in your career. And historically with big men, it's just so difficult to stay healthy. But given that he is healthy, I mean, we're looking at like perennial MVP candidate and, front runner in DPOY, assuming he's healthy.
Yeah.
Every year for the next 10 seasons?
For the foreseeable future.
No, and the Spurs overall, I mean, not a terrible team. I don't expect them to make that much of a noise, but I mean, like decent teams. Stephon Castle, Vassell. I mean,
no, they need another. They have so many breakout candidates, but they do need at least 1 or 2 of those guys to kind of step up.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna push back on that.
Really?
I'm ready to call them the second best team in the Western Conference.
Oh,
if Wemby keeps playing at this level, I mean, look, they're 4-0 and it's early in the season, but I mean, De'Aaron Fox hasn't even taken the court yet. And I know they have 2 guards. They don't, exactly need him out there right now. Wemby's the focal point in the offense. You don't need De'Aaron Fox to be that, primary ball handler, that primary scorer anymore. But I mean, they don't have a single guy in the roster averaging over 5 assists a game. If he can come in there and he can really start creating more looks, especially with the gravity that Wemby has, you're only going to be getting more open looks because if you're leaving Fox on an island every possession, you have Wemby having 2 guys on him on the block. De'Aaron Fox is going to get so many free layups. He's one of the best slashing guards, I would argue, in the entire league. And once he comes back, you have Dylan Harper coming out averaging 15 as a rookie. You have Stephon Castle making an even bigger jump, averaging 18. You have Devin Vassell giving you, isolation buckets when you need him to, knock down threes. I mean, this is a scary, scary team, and every single member of that roster is only getting better, which is the thing that really concerns me from the West. Luckily, as a Knicks fan, we don't have to, worry about that until
the finals.
Until hopefully the finals, if we make it that far. But, I think this is a team that can make some serious noise. They got Barnes, Keldon Johnson, Julian Champagne. He's not bad. I mean,
what a roster.
It's definitely something to be said
about.
It is
deep.
5 guys averaging double digits, and you haven't even had De'Aaron step on the floor yet. Yeah. So it also, I guess it does beg the question of, when De'Aaron Fox comes back, how does that offense change to accommodate him? He is the, I guess the co-superstar of that team, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see when he eventually comes back, how he fits into that offense, and where the scoring shifts, and if they're continuing to play the same brand of basketball they are currently.
Yeah,
when is he supposed to come back?
I don't think he's out for a long time, but I know he's still a little bit of a way away, if I'm not mistaken. I might be thinking of a different player, but I think to your point, Ryan, I'm not sure what happens with the scoring dynamic. I think one thing is kind of the guard rotation that they're going to use, because right now they have a lineup that they've been rolling out. They're starting 5 of Wembanyama, Castle, Vassell, Harper, and Keldon Johnson, right? And all those guys are fitting each other's play styles really well. De'Aaron Fox throughout his entire career, essentially, considering he joined the Spurs last year at a point where Wemby only played a couple more games. He's always been that primary scorer, and you see a lot of ego in this league. You see a lot of guys who come onto a team and think that it's their team, Yeah. And I think that's one bigger concern that they're going to have to worry about, is how they kind of gel together. Now, it's the Spurs. They're built on a very strong foundation of basketball with Popovich as the coach. He's still the coach, right? I wasn't sure because of health concerns.
I think
either way, it's a Popovich system.
Yeah, he's returned to meetings and stuff. I don't think he's resumed.
He's still heavily involved. I believe they've switched it now. I'm seeing now it's Mitch Johnson, but he is still heavily involved. And this was a recent transition between coaches. And also on the De'Aaron Fox point, there's currently no injury timeline, just that he's expected to miss the first kind of chunk of the season.
Okay. Yeah, that would kind of worry me a little bit, because you have Vassell, Harper, Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox. That's 4 really, really good guards. You could start at most 3. Personally, I'd shift 2 of them to the bench and maybe try to get a little more shooting in that starting lineup. But, what a good problem to have, right? All 4 of these guys, I've been a Devin Vassell lover for years. I love what he does. Then you add Dylan Harper, who, to me, looks like just thinking of his archetype out of college, just to me seems like the perfect complement next to Wembanyama. And then you have the super athletic Castle, who to me seems like the best fit to stretch to a 3. And then I think Casey and I have been pretty vocal that we love Keldon Johnson on this podcast.
Love
just what an incredibly underrated player. Just this roster is loaded.
Yeah, they are.
And they have Carter Bryant from this year's draft, who already looks like just like a robot defender, just like you cannot get past him.
Yeah, and now I want to switch to another team that surprised me. No cheating, no looking at the computers or the standings or anything.
Okay.
What team do you think in the league is currently leading in points per game at 132 through three games?
I want to say Oklahoma City, but 1, they wouldn't be a surprise, and 2, they've played 2 double overtime games so far, so their stat line might be a bit skewed.
No, they're 7th in the West.
Diego,
points
your
per
guess?
game. This is the entire league.
Wow.
The New York Knicks.
No, they're actually second to last.
Right.
We're a defensive basketball team.
I have a stupid guess, but I remember seeing they scored 70.5, so I'm going to say the Miami Heat.
It is not the Miami Heat, guys. It is the Charlotte Hornets. Oh. They are 2-1, and it has been against the Nets, the Sixers, and the Wizards. And look, they're 2-1. They've beaten the Nets and the Wizards. That's not that inspiring, but we're seeing some firepower from them. Putting up 140, 136, 125, that's not easy to do. Do you think this is the year the Hornets finally figure it out? Do you think they might have finally what it takes to make the playoffs? LaMelo Ball has looked outstanding so far. He has been a flamethrower. He's averaging 28, 8, and 10 assists, 2 steals. He is stuffing the stat sheet, and he's still kind of taking some less than agreeable shots, but he's hitting them, and that's his brand of basketball. And, I'm curious what you guys think about this team going forward, especially in a year where the East seems to be wide open.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be excited about with the Hornets. Namely, I think they're starting to finally kind of embrace this brand of LaMelo Ball and move away from the budget Celtics basketball that they have tried to roll out the last couple of years. Yeah, LaMelo's looked fantastic. They have lost Brandon Miller to injury. It's unclear how long he'll be out, but that's kind of a big hit. A couple things I want to touch on here. Con Knuppel has been great so far.
Yeah.
He looks fantastic, and also Colin Sexton has kind of walked into this role here. But one guy I kind of want to highlight is Miles Bridges, who, at least from the eye test, I'll need the numbers to confirm this, but to me, it looks like he's really taking a lot more threes than he was last year, and he's making them. Like, he looks like a legitimate threat from that side of the floor, and we know how, like, athletic he is.
He's taking 7 threes a game.
Yeah. And, yeah, no, I don't know if playoffs are in the cards for just like this season specifically, but in regards to what you said about them starting to figure out, like, I feel like this team is starting to get an identity, and if that's not doesn't result in a playoff team, to me that at least is like results in a watchable, like, enjoyable like, this team is so fun to watch.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
they are indeed.
Definitely have a great core. I mean, they're young. I mean, Miles Bridges and Sexton are two of their oldest players that get some legitimate minutes, and they're both 27. So that's not even their oldest guys are not really, they're essentially reaching their peaks now, not even pushing the older ages and years of their career. So again, not sure about, a potential playoff spot, but they could be a sneaky pick to, be fighting for a play-in when the season's all said and done. I mean, like you said, the loss of Brandon Miller, Alex, but I mean, there's been 6 guys averaging double digits with a 7th averaging 9. So, almost 7 double-digit scorers kind of feeds into the narrative you're saying, Casey, about how they're just shooting the lights out and scoring the basketball. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if they can keep that up against some better defenses down the road. But, yeah, definitely an interesting team to watch out of the East and maybe in some play-in contention talks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just to wrap up our NBA coverage, I'm curious, how every year there's that one team that kind of comes out the gate, surprises you, and ends up in a higher seed. You have the Pistons last year. You have the Kings from a couple of years back. Who do you guys anticipate being that team this year? Because every year we get one, and I would say it's more likely in the Eastern Conference just because of, how wide open it is. The Celtics haven't really shown to be a threat. The Pacers are 0-3. The Knicks, the Bucks, they're going to get theirs. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they'll probably end as a top 3 seed. Who do you guys see as that, surprise out of nowhere team that really shocks you and maybe comes in and hosts a playoff series in the first round?
Can I say Dallas?
I think you could. I think you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, I really like Anthony Davis. Big fan of Anthony Davis. Flag is also pretty different. He is young. He's still trying to find his spot. But I mean, he's a baller. He was playing better in the preseason. I would say he scored 2 against the Thunder the other night. But nonetheless, I think once he finds himself, he'll have a pretty good role in in an already decent team without him. Clay he's kind of washed up, but could pose a threat. D'Lo coming off the bench, that's not a bad shout. I'd say Dallas could be a bit less underwhelming than people think coming off of last season.
I think I can kind of corroborate that. I mean, they do have a couple, tough losses. Losing to the Wizards, not exactly, an inspiring performance, but they are still earlier in their season. They're kind of figuring out Cooper Flagg's role, like you're saying, and how he fits into this offense. And I think one thing that's also interesting to consider is similar to our De'Aaron Fox conversation of when he comes back, how does he fit into that role? You probably have Kyrie coming back in the new year, so at that point you're already around halfway through the season, and you're getting back an elite guard in this league. So I think that's going to be an interesting addition, and I guess we'll kind of check in with the Mavericks and see where they're at at the mid-season point. But I think getting Kyrie back is going to be something that definitely could push them over the edge, like you're saying, Diego, into being that dark horse team that comes out and could be hosting a playoff series.
Yeah. One team I'll quickly throw out is a team I'm kind of a fan of, but they're 1-3 right now. I just really like the Toronto Raptors.
Yes.
Yes.
I thought that was coming.
And I could see this going 2 different directions. I mean, this is just, I love really filled out starting fives. Thinking of the Cavs, I think the Raptors need to be mentioned in that conversation. You have Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl. Those are 5 super high quality, if not star to superstar level players. And I think there's been a lot of injuries, but I think as they continue to kind of work together and develop that chemistry, this team can be really, really scary, and we could get some kind of team basketball with maybe Scotty Barnes emerging as that star scorer for the team, and then have everyone surrounding them. But in the kind of other vein, I just see when I see all this like wealth of starting talent, I think the Raptors could arise as a trade target should a player like maybe Giannis become available. It becomes a lot better to tantalize the Bucks when you have actual star players to throw, rather than just picks in the not so near very distant future. I could see the Raptors making a splash like that if their season kind of continues to go like this. But if not, they just have like RJ Barrett's playing great. I love Brandon Ingram way more than I should. So maybe that's playing into this a little bit. But I think, 1-3 doesn't really reflect where I see the Raptors going this season.
Yeah. Well, Giannis to the Raptors is like a good shout.
That's kind of fun.
He would look good in a Raptors jersey. I think my team, I didn't speak very highly of them before the season. And I think now, free from the shackles of their gambling and maleficent head coach Chauncey Billups, I think that we could see something from the Portland Trailblazers here. Yeah. I think Denny Advia has come out and he's, finally showing what he could be when he got drafted. I believe it was 8th overall a few years back. And, he kind of has some years under his belt to find his game. He's averaging 23 on good splits. He's in the 40s for both 3 and field goal percentage. You have Jerami Grant going out there putting up 22 a game, which people don't really pay attention to him, but it's pretty standard for him. You have Drew Holiday bringing that veteran presence, being a good distributor, averaging 8 assists a game. Shaedon Sharp's a young guard. He's explosive. Tumani Kamara, Donovan Clingan. It's a young team, and I think this could be a team that, while even if they make the playoffs, will probably get bounced in the first rounds, especially in a tough Western Conference. I think they could be that fun Western Conference team that maybe doesn't host a playoff series. I think if they were in the East, they might be able to, but I think, they could be the team that does that. And that's, pure speculation. I've seen some clips. I like the way they've been moving the ball. I think the defense has been pretty good. I'm looking for the best for them, and I hope they do well because I like a lot of young guys on that team.
Yeah, and I would love to see Yang Hansen get some minutes.
Yes.
I mean, I know I don't want to overreact on preseason, but what I saw from him, he looked so good. Like, it was shades of, I guess we consider Alperen Şengün, like, because we don't want to call everybody Jokic, but just kind of like your kind of finesse, distributor big man. He just looked good. And I think the sooner they get, he's played every game, but he's still only playing like 6 minutes a game. I think the sooner they get him running that second unit, the quicker like the Trailblazers are going to be able to hang on when their starting 5 is off the floor. This more we'll see them win games and then maybe kind of sneak into the playoff. I love that pick.
Yeah, so I'll have to look out for Yang Hansen. Then, I haven't seen anything.
He hasn't been getting much run, to be fair. And for the sake of time, we're going to wrap up our NBA segment. We're going to shift over to the NFL. I think one thing that caught my eye originally, I know they had a couple, important guys out on the offense, but for any, listeners out there who may have watched our hot take episode, I just want to formally apologize for saying that the Falcons could go out there and make some noise because they are absolute garbage. I have no more hope. I know they didn't have London. They didn't have Penix. I don't think it matters that much. When you lose by 24 to the Dolphins, you really just don't have much going for you.
Tua had a good game, though.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Tua is not that good either.
Yeah.
He's not even top 20. He's putting up 4 touchdowns. This is, especially without Tyreek Hill, it's disappointing. I'm very disappointed. Not disappointed about my Jets, but, it's the Bengals.
What a win. What a win for the Jets, right?
And I didn't watch.
I don't know if this is
you didn't watch?
Absolute barn burner.
I haven't watched a game since week 3, since that Buccaneers game where they gave up that game-winning drive, just because my Sundays tend, and like the rest of my week actually, tend to go a little bit better when I don't watch the Jets, just because usually nothing good comes out of it. I'm happy we got a win. It's good for team morale and everything, and Fields did look good. He felt like he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I do still think they deal Brees before the trade deadline. They don't really have a reason to keep him. There's a short kind of shelf life for running backs in this league, especially when he's going into a contract year. This team still needs time. I think he just raised his trade value with a 3-touchdown performance. Good for the team. Sorry for any sort of Bengals fan there might be, because that is a brutal loss.
Yeah.
And I feel like outside of that, there weren't too many surprises this week, were there?
One major surprise to me is Tyler Huntley leading the Ravens to like a fairly certain victory over the Bears. And like, I think we need to have like a discussion about Ben Johnson and the Bears. Like, these are games you cannot be losing, because even with Lamar on the Ravens, that defense was still terrible. That defense was still that defense was shredded cheddar cheese, right? But getting walked down by the Tyler Huntley Ravens and then only putting up 16 on this terrible Ravens defense is just something that cannot happen. And it's not like this is, an outlier for the Bears. Like they are 4-3 on the season. This is not, the breakout a lot of people are expecting. So I'm curious where you guys are at with the Bears, because I feel like this loss is just kind of getting swept under the rug. Like it's not really being talked about.
I don't know. I can't tell. I think I might be out on Ben Johnson. Honestly, I definitely agree with everything you're saying. This is a 4-3 Bears team that at the start of the season, I don't think any of us would have put them in the conversation with the Lions and Packers to be pushing for maybe not the division, but you're above 500. You have a couple good wins in your belt. Caleb Williams has looked pretty good over the last couple of weeks, and it kind of comes down to like, where do you look for that? Why are we not doing better? Why are we losing to this a hurt Ravens secondary and an offense led by Tyler Huntley? Well, do you have to look at the coach at that point? I mean, they brought Ben Johnson in over the offseason. I saw a stat yesterday that said the Bears had scored, I think, 116 points through up to right now in the NFL, and last year at this time they'd scored 108. So you're thinking to yourself, you've only gained 8 points on your last season total from this point. Where are you going wrong? You have a Caleb Williams in year 2, who, like I said, has looked a lot better. DJ Moore, Odunze has looked awesome. Cole Kmet. So you have weapons. DeAndre Swift, like you have a good offense. And, then it becomes, well, if your offense is this good and such a big improvement, how are you only putting up 8 more points than last season? So, definitely some questions around the Bears head coaching job and, what led to, this loss.
Right, and I'd like to kind of double down on that Ben Johnson point. There was a point in the Commanders-Lions playoff game last year where the Commanders were up, 2 scores? And they called the Lions called some bell and whistly JMO jet sweep pass that got intercepted, and I remember just thinking we know what Ben Johnson can do when his team is winning and they're up by 1 million and then they're doing fake fumbles and stuff, but are the fundamentals really there? Because I think the first game of the year was Bears Vikings, right? Mm-hmm. And they got JJ McCarthy was terrible the whole game, and then they just crumbled, exactly like Casey said. And I cannot believe that Ben Johnson is ready for a head coaching job at this point in time when, like Ryan said, they've gained 8 points on the year. They're 4-3. I mean, there are some parts that are good, but that could be credited to the players kind of taking steps. And we've seen in these the first scripted couple drives of an NFL game where, offenses have, their game already planned out. That's when the Bears look strongest. And then when it's up to Ben Johnson to handle the rest of the game, especially when they're losing, I don't see it with Ben Johnson, and I don't see it with the Bears right now.
And I totally agree. Their losses have been bad, and from looking at it, their wins are unconvincing. Like you said, they crumbled to Minnesota week 1, lose by 3. You get blown out in Detroit, 52-21, so more than doubled their score. Then you at home against Dallas, you win that game by 2 scores. Okay, you're starting to look a little bit better. Dallas is solid this year, nothing special. Then you get a 1-point win over Vegas, a 1-point win over the Commanders, and you beat the New Orleans Saints by 12. So really not been in a close game or given any trouble to stronger teams. And then coming out of this week, you lose to Baltimore by 2 scores. Like we said, hurt Baltimore, Tyler Huntley. So really tough, bad losses and unconvincing wins, which, like we said, begs the question, is Ben Johnson ready for a head coaching role in this team?
I'm not so certain. I think I would echo that with you guys. And I think to wrap up, I want to do something a little bit more different. I want to see who you guys have as the early MVP frontrunner. Now, I want to preface the fact that there was a lot of smoke last year about Saquon Barkley winning the MVP. He had 14 touchdowns in the season.
2,000 rushing yards.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor has 14 touchdowns right now. Yeah. 850 rushing yards. Now, I don't think he's going to eclipse that 2,000-yard mark like Saquon did. And, they had good seasons for different reasons. Jonathan Taylor has been leading the best offense, not even this season, of the past decade and a half in terms of points per game, points per drive. And look, credit to Daniel Jones. He's played outstanding. He's been great this year. I don't think anyone saw this coming. And you got to give some credit to Steichen, too. He's done an outstanding coaching job. But, I mean, Jonathan Taylor is not even back in 2021 form. He's past that. I mean, he has just eclipsed any other back in the league. I know we were on here a couple weeks back talking about Bijan being the best back in the league, but I mean, Jonathan Taylor week in, week out. I mean, he's now matched LaDainian Tomlinson for the first season since 2006 with 4 3-touchdown games, and we're halfway through the season. I mean, I think that, you really have to give some deep look into, running back winning an MVP for the first time since 2012 with Jonathan Taylor here, because he's on track to win the rushing Triple Crown. He's on track to lead one of the best offenses statistically of all time, especially with, a receiving core that isn't particularly strong. Michael Pittman's been good, but, it's nothing special. Jonathan Taylor, I think, in my eyes right now, is the MVP, considering QB play hasn't been at its strongest as it has been in recent years. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I definitely think he's got to be the front runner right now, and it's hard as an average fan. I feel like if you're really tuned into the NFL, you're kind of less inclined to like this idea that a QB has to be the MVP. Like last year, I absolutely think Saquon should have been in the MVP, but I imagine someone will. Well, okay, I imagine someone will eclipse Jonathan Taylor.
I can push back on that, but we'll save that for another time.
I mean, I think. We were talking a lot about Baker, and the last couple of weeks he's looked really off, so he's kind of fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of what he's done this season, just purely based on the struggles he's seen, Jalen Hurts has played incredible, but he doesn't put enough the necessary stats for me to even consider him the MVP, because I do understand that is an aspect of it, because you want to be able to compare them to previous seasons. So I think right now, I don't think there's competition for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Lamar's been hurt. Josh Allen hasn't been winning the games like he should. I think the one pushback right now is that Patrick Mahomes is having one of the best seasons of his career. At least statistically, he's been unbelievable. I mean, it's the same Mahomes we've always seen, but this Chiefs offense is kind of running really, really well, and they're kind of getting a lot more out of him. I think that's the major pushback on Jonathan Taylor being MVP right now.
Patrick Mahomes is unfortunately back. He's really back. He looks outstanding. He's passing the ball, I'd say the best I've seen since his 2022 MVP season. And he's tied for the league. He's tied for the league lead in passing touchdowns. He's second in passing yards. He only has 4 interceptions, which has been a struggle for him in the past couple of years. It's hard to see Jonathan Taylor winning over Mahomes if he keeps this pace up because of how the media processes and, attributes these awards. But, it's just a shame, because what Jonathan Taylor is doing this year is like, I haven't seen this, at least in terms of like touchdown production as well, like ever.
Yeah.
Since I started paying attention to football.
It's definitely very difficult to argue against Jonathan Taylor at the current moment, like you said, matching Saquon's touchdown total from last year, and we just finished week 8, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely to see what you're saying with Mahomes, he's played awesome. Those a tough early start to the season. You don't have Rashee Rice for the first 6 weeks. Xavier Worthy's missed some time. So to kind of echo what you guys are saying, that he's made it work. He's found ways to win. He's turned, I believe, an 0-2 record around to now being like 5 or 6-2. So definitely being super strong in recent weeks. Even though juggling, guys in and out of your wide receiver room. Keeping Travis Kelce productive. So I would definitely love to see Jonathan Taylor win it. I'm definitely, like you're saying, Casey, against the motto that it's normally a QB award. But I would say if you're looking at the pure value of the most valuable player to their team currently, I would have to say it would be Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
You could make a very, very good argument for Mahomes. I mean, taking Mahomes out of that offense, where would they be? No one knows. You could say the Colts offense would still be pretty good, but I mean, when someone's averaging 30+ fantasy points a week, 14 touchdowns through week 8, I mean,
that's unreal.
There's no way to overstate the impact that he has on that offense.
Yeah. And to kind of wrap it up here, what we've been doing the last couple of weeks with guests on the podcast is, do either of you have any final, last minute takes, like predictions for any sports leagues, anything you want to leave the audience with before we close up our episode here? Diego, if you want to go first, if you have anything.
This could be a hot take. Something you've been meaning to get out. Something that you don't think people would agree with, but
it could be a scorcher. We love them.
Very interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that. But as per like the MVP, I like do want to give a shout to Drake May. He I'm not even too big of a football fan, but from what I can see, he's
balling.
Right.
He's balling. And the Patriots are balling too, but I think it could be argued they have a bit of a cupcake schedule.
They do.
But they beat the Bills.
Patriots are a first-round exit.
They do have one of the weakest schedules in the NFL, though. That's worth mentioning.
They beat the Dolphins, Panthers, Saints, Titans, Browns. I'm not going to mention the 6th team. I mean, Put Tyler Huntley out there, he'd do the same thing. No, I'm kidding.
Why don't
Drake, what?
Like
I'm a Jets fan. I just despise the Patriots,
Okay,
and I don't think they're built
fair.
for this. I think they're frauds. I think they're gonna end the season maybe 11 wins, and then I think they get bounced in the divisional, not the divisional, the wild card. They're not winning a playoff game, and that's gonna make me really happy. Circle back in January when I'm probably wrong, and I'm gonna be even more upset about the fact that they won. But
Yeah, we'll come back to this. All right, Ryan, what you got for us?
I have a couple. One is definitely hotter than the other. I still think this might be some of my bias talking, but I do still think that the Eagles will go on to win the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts has found his form recently. The offense is finally clicking. Saquon had his first kind of breakout performance of the season, what we've been used to seeing all of last season, and now we're finally getting back to that. So if we can keep that up, I really don't know who can stop us, especially on offense. I mean, our defense, there's something to be said about that. The cornerback play has been a little bit lacking, but it's something you can still shore up at the trade deadline. But, in terms of keeping up with an offense where Jalen Hurts is clicking, I think not this past week, but 2 weeks ago, he had the first perfect passer rating of the season.
Yeah.
So if Jalen Hurts is playing at that level, Saquon's at his level, and you have Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert has had touchdowns in multiple weeks running now. I really think it's going to be tough to find a team that's going to be able to keep up with us offensively and just be able to outscore us if it comes to that. So I'd say that's one of my takes. And I'll kind of going off of that Jalen Hurts by the end of the season will be a solidified top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
Cam Newton.
I love it.
Cam Newton, that was an egregious take at the start of the season. I don't know if he's proven himself to this point that he is definitively top 5, but I think when it's all said and done at the end of this season, he will be top 5. And, maybe a debate for another time. If he wins another Super Bowl and is Super Bowl MVP, where are we putting him in the conversation of the best quarterbacks in the league?
Top 2.
How many quarterbacks, I don't know the exact stat, but how many quarterbacks have multiple Super Bowl wins, multiple Super Bowl MVPs? There can't be a ton of them out there. So maybe topic for another time. But I'd say the take that I think might be a little hotter is that by the end of this season, people will recognize Jackson Smith-Njigba as a better wide receiver than CeeDee Lamb.
I love it.
That's a good take.
Dak,
because here's the thing, I'm not there yet.
I agree.
Not there yet, but he's on his way.
Jackson Smith-Njigba has been outproducing CeeDee Lamb for the entire season with, in my opinion, worse quarterback play. I would say we would all agree that Sam Darnold is not as good of a QB as
I would not agree with that, but
as Dak Prescott. Although Dak has not had a great season, but
Dak actually has had a pretty good year
so
far.
He is, like, not to his best possible performance, but
not.
if you're a CD, you have all the tools to succeed. You're in an offense with George Pickens, so you know that they can't just double you. You can't draw all the attention all the time. Whereas on the other hand, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's the wide receiver too? Cooper Kupp, an older Cooper Kupp that's lost his first step quickness and is not producing to the level we've seen in the rest of his career, and he's still putting up better numbers than CD.
Yeah, no.
Still in the NFC. So it's I kind of agree with you, Casey. I don't even know if I'm fully there yet, but I definitely think that by the end of the season, that will be a conversation on a lot of people's podcasts and minds. Is JSN a better receiver than CeeDee Lamb?
I love that you choose CeeDee Lamb too, because JSN has grown from like this slot technician to a do-it-all guy, which
everywhere.
Like for his frame, he's been unbelievable. And I think one thing we talked about with CeeDee Lamb is his route running. JSN is slowly making conversation for being one of top 3, if not one of the best route runners in the league. Just from the tape we've seen this year, he is unbelievable how good he's been this year and how consistently he's produced as a deep threat and just being all over the formation. He's just been unbelievable. So I love those. I love that take.
Yeah.
I'd love to revisit it.
I'll leave the Eagles takes alone. I've had my fun with the Eagles in the past few weeks. I got 2 on here, so I'm a little bit outnumbered. So I'll butt my head out of this one. And I guess that would wrap us up. I guess if I could throw one more take out there. I guess it's a little bit similar to Jalen Hurts' take. I think people will regard Sam Darnold as a top 7 QB when they make an NFC Championship run. I'm a big Sam Darnold fan. You know this.
I do know this.
Hopefully the world knows because he was on the Jets. We failed him. I wish him all the best, and I think he's been outstanding this year.
Good for him.
With that, I would like to thank both Diego and Ryan for coming on the podcast today. We very much enjoyed you guys' company.
Thanks
like
for
I
having
said
us.
at the start, you can find us on Instagram at GWU SBA. That's GWU SBA. We hope everyone enjoyed this episode of the Second Take Podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Stay tuned for more content. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Take care, everyone.